Hello, everybody. This is July 10th, 2017. Welcome to the Aligning with Success call. Many of you are familiar faces, so there are a few people that are new I haven't seen in a while, and I'm sure I want to just let you all know that this is an open call, so it's free for anyone to invite anyone on this call, even guests and prospects who may be looking at Nikken as a business opportunity. This is a great way to introduce them to some of the support that's available to them as they enroll in the business. So welcome all of you. Welcome. I hope you had a great weekend last weekend because we were preempted by the Nikken launch call. I'm getting a little bit of background noise, so I can ask for you to self-mute, please, so we can not get all that interruption. And you can unmute yourselves as needed in order to chime in. I guess the week before we had Independence Day, and then the week after we had Nikken launch call with some new announcements. And one of those announcements I thought we should talk a little bit about, and if there's any questions about, is the new incentive designed for, and I want to be clear about what it's designed for. It's designed for rewarding a behavior. The behavior that Nikken wants to reward is the same behavior that's actually implied in all of our business messaging. We keep talking about, and Nikken refers to quality enrollment, the idea of somebody generating 500 points per month, quality points, meaning a volume from their personal business retail sales on a monthly basis of $500, which leads to a predictable business. When you start to extrapolate that as you duplicate through the generations of your organization, the 3x3, then you can actually put some numbers to that, and it gives you a predictable income and supports the advancement in rank through our compensation plan. So 500 points personal volume as a minimum is what we're encouraging everybody to do. So in order to set that behavior up from the very beginning, Nikken decided to put in place an incentive for two things. Number one, set up the behavior, but more importantly, to get the behavior started immediately. If you're having some challenges with helping somebody make some decisions about getting started and how they should get started, well, to have the 500 points from the day they get started is how you set that in motion. So this incentive is for the first 90 days of the life of a new consultant to encourage them to create at least a minimum of 500 points per month. And as that obviously duplicates, then you get that 3x3 and the advancement in rank. So essentially, this is a pathway to executive based on a minimum of 500 points personal volume on a monthly basis. And they get $99 back from Nikken through Nikken Reward Dollars. So essentially, their subscription to become a Nikken consultant is free. I'm getting some background from you, Madeline, so I'm going to mute you there. If you got headphones, that's your feedback. By the way, just as a rule, some messaging for all of us here. When you're doing a Zoom presentation of any kind, most people are accustomed to talking into their laptop because they know their laptop has a microphone built in. But your laptop also has the speakers, which means when you talk, the feedback from the speakers is also being looped in, and that's what can create that distortion. So, and whoever you may be talking to as well, they're hearing you from their speakers on their laptop, and the speakers are then feedbacking into their microphone what you're saying, so you might hear yourself as an echo, and that can also create distortion. So I recommend, as a protocol, teach everybody that when you get on any kind of video conference, and I mean any kind, don't rely on the speakers of the laptop. Put earphones on. Let that be your speakers. That way it doesn't interfere with the microphone. So you hear in your ears through the speakers, through the, we call this the earphones, and then you talk into your laptop through the microphone, or you do what I did, invest about, I don't know, I think this is about $100, not much. It's called Blue. I got this, as you can see, it's directional. As you direct it, turn it, it's kind of like a radio broadcast, Mike. It's awesome. And you can get this for like $100 at Future Shop or something like that. And my earphones plug right into it, and it gives you really good quality sound. Which, by the way, for those of you who are broadcasting, another cool thing about that. One of my social media experts indicated to me long time ago, a lot of people who are listening to these broadcasts are listening, not actually watching. And so you might find, and he told me that the sound quality is more important than the video quality 9 out of 10 times, because they're just listening. They might be surfing on the internet, checking emails and whatever, while they're listening to the playback or listening to you live. So invest in your sound quality, because that goes a long way for your video conferences. So that's a little bit of an insight, useful tool. Anyway, go back a couple of weeks and we were talking about the need for urgency, to create urgency in our business by creating these dates with destiny. And I want to talk a little bit more about that and see how many of you have actually applied that, how these ideas are being implemented. Because if they're not being implemented in your business, you're not going to see the effect of it. But they're pretty important ideas, these things that we're rolling out sort of one piece at a time as everyone becomes more familiar. But getting back to this incentive, so it's a great way to get somebody initiated into Nikken, create an expectation of at least 500 points volume, which, by the way, just if they just ramp up in terms of personal purchases through their customers, they're going to get that incentive started. Let's see. And what it does is it's like a little engine that sets up the big engine. So duplication of 500 creates the executive. The executive then can be duplicated to create the Entrepreneurs Club. So it gives us one of the missing pieces, I think, it was a subtle ingredient, but I noticed that this was something they were doing in Mexico as part of their incentive program to create a level of duplication at the 500 points, not just the 1,500 points. So it's sort of a step into the 1,500 point model for duplication. Anyway, enough said about that. Any questions you have about that, feel free to ask. And the other point coming back then was the idea of urgency, establishing urgency in your business with some drop dead dates. What are drop dead dates? Dates with destiny. You know, the idea that your business has a launch window, a launch date, and it can be more than one. You will have several in your Nikken career. For instance, I had 4 launches in my business. Each one advanced me in rank. The first launch I got to gold. The second launch was platinum. The third launch was diamond. And the last launch took me to royal diamond. So each launch I got better at. With each launch, I was able to pinpoint more quickly who I needed to be working with because I got better at it. With each launch, I was able to actually help somebody advance in rank much further than any previous launch because I had a better understanding strategically of what to do with them. And so we become better at our business as we create these launches, but there's only one thing we really need to learn how to do, and that's launch somebody in the business once we found them. So finding them and launching them, that's our business. Find and launch, find and launch, find and launch. And the best you could hope for is to give somebody the best launch you can based on what you now know. So these dates with destiny may be a new ingredient for many of you to create a launch window, the idea that there's a clock ticking, it's a countdown before we go live or we go public with our particular campaign when you're launching somebody new. So how many of you have started to integrate some of these ideas into your business? Do you have a very specific example of that, something that struck a chord with you and helped you, for instance, or somebody on your team initiate a start with a little bit more vigor, a little bit more urgency? Anyone here on the call experiencing that? Unmute yourself. You're all pretty much muted out if you want to chime in.
Well, with really my first...
there are some people, by the way, listening just by audio, so just announce yourself when you come in.
Oh, I'm Carol Hackbart in Wisconsin.
Okay, go ahead, Carol.
And can't you hear me?
We're getting a broken message. Your internet signal is a little bit intermittent. Pardon me?
That is a problem with my internet, so.
Okay. And by the way, it's not uncommon. People are having issues with the internet, but don't be alarmed by that. Take some action. There's a number of things that I found when I had internet issues. Sometimes I just had outdated modems. And since you are paying for your internet service, it's up to them to provide you with an updated modem. So if you call your internet provider, they might tell you, oh yeah, that's an old technology, we've upgraded. Just take your box into the local blah, 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 and they'll exchange it for a new one. It's usually about a 15-minute process, if that. I've changed mine regularly. So it could be just data technology. It's not keeping up to speed. The other thing you might do is check how close are you to your if you're doing this wirelessly, you may need to be a little bit closer to your unit so that your computer and your unit can have a better dialogue if you're doing it wirelessly. And the other thing could be just the fact that you are having, in fact, issues with your internet speed. Now, how you might test that is there's usually a speed test. I have one on my phone to do a speed test because I need to know every now and then whether or not it's me or is it the internet. It's a speed test by Ookla. It's a little speed test thing here, and I can just click begin test, and it'll give me my download speed and my upload speed, so I can check whether or not the provider is providing what they say they're supposed to be providing. So it's a way to police your provider and make sure they're providing you the service you're paying for. And so you can do that. Ookla is one thing. Just Google internet speed test, and then you can just do a quick online speed test and check your speed and see whether or not, is this my problem or is it the service provider is not providing? So just a few tips for you there. Go ahead, Carol. I think we can get you now.
Do you think so? Okay,
Go ahead.
well, just the new person on my team almost made executive the first month she joined. And I started to write out talking about that goal, and she's all over it, and I think she'll go executive this month, probably by mid-month, I think. So
May I make a suggestion?
yes.
If she's already passed her first month, her focus shouldn't be on her going executive.
Oh,
So where should the focus be
getting new people.
to go executive?
Okay.
Okay?
Okay,
So
that's great.
I'll give you an example. Somebody's asked me, this is a common question, but it's the same answer all the time for me. When somebody says, what's the easiest way to go silver? I said, easy. Have somebody else go silver in your downline. Help somebody else do it, and then you'll get it done. So
Okay.
when your focus is on someone else, we have a tendency to work more strategically. We have a tendency to be more efficient. And we have a tendency to be a little bit more zealous about how we approach things because it's, I don't know, just something takes over us and we become better at it. So help somebody else advance in rank, and your advancement is as a consequence. So the focus ought to be always. One of the things I, for instance, talk about when I talk about your launch, in creating and establishing goals. You really want to change your breaking through the board concept is you don't want to go to the board, you want to go through the board. So executive is not really a goal.
Right.
Neither is silver.
Right.
A goal ought to be to find a team, a certain number of people in a certain span of time that are focused and committed on building a Nikken business with you. Because what would be the consequence of finding a team in a certain span of time who are on the same page as you, working together with you in collaboration? Wouldn't the consequence be your advancement in rank? Wouldn't that be just a natural consequence of everybody sort of rowing in the boat at the same time? That's a much better goal. It's more on point. It's efficacious because it's really about people and not about points. Points becomes the consequence. So when setting goals, make those goals about people, not about points.
Great. That's great.
Find that team and work together to create a big win for everyone.
Mike, I can speak. The reason I was a few minutes late coming on, the new executive that promoted last month two of her customers from last month are in the process. They want more products themselves. So I explained this 500 thing and getting your $99 back if they want to move at that pace. And both said, well, we really want to help Terry. Well, you're helping Terry. That's the duplication that's needed. I gave them all a packet of handouts that we purchased when they were here. So I've had several phone calls. She has her other sister in New Jersey who went to Florida, and that's beginning to happen there. So that duplication is occurring. Then in talking to new people, since I'm not driving in and out as much as before, they're coming in and out. So I had one customer pick up and drop off and wanting more products. When a new person came in, the radiologist, the radiology tech that did my x-ray today, and I left them alone. So they both went out with more products because of the product experience the one has, and she just texted that she wants an appointment. So that overlapping and the sense of urgency and suggesting that let's just do this together. So we have two entrepreneurs clubs that are going to start together of the customers that were Terry's last month. This month.
Okay, great. We had a really interesting call this past Saturday. I hope you guys plugged into it. I'll be posting on the Royal Alliance. I'm just waiting for the graphic to come from the graphics person that Dave has. I think we're gonna call it the Nikken Advantage, a discussion. And how many of you? I guess many of you were on that call and probably even had guests on that call. It's a good call. A good call, maybe not as a first call, because there's not that many people who would sit through a 30-minute conversation of any kind, especially when they don't have context. But as a follow-up call, as a support to whatever meeting you might have had with somebody, fantastic way to say this conversation that just took place on Saturday you might find very appealing, because I think they really covered the important points about why an association with Nikken as a business would be of great value, a tremendous advantage. And so utilize that call. That link, again, you can probably find right now. I think there's one on Magnetic Leaders Facebook page. You'll find the Royal Alliance sometime tomorrow once we get that graphic up. But another new tool, which is really, I think, was well done, on point, as a follow-up tool to what makes Nikken special, what makes it unique. And
it's on YouTube.
And it's on, yes, of course, it's a YouTube video. Also, I wanted to emphasize the video that was done by Ursula Doub, the interview of her. Again, a stupendous follow-up for somebody who was really doing some due diligence on Nikken. This one you can see, I just reposted it today on the Royal Alliance Facebook page, and it's a YouTube video as well, where she gets into the idea that magnetics, particularly Nikken technology, is something that's measurable as its impact on the body. That's what got her attention, was she uses a technology, a device that's able to translate the interference that the body's experience from stress electrically, and how the magnetics and the technology of Nikken can instantly, immediately affect and calm the system down, normalize the system. So pretty powerful validation tool for those of you who are looking for something to provide somebody that can give them some third-party validation that has some strong merit to it. So those are two great new tools that we have available for supporting our business. Okay, so anyone else who has some urgency going in the business, and I'm still not hearing what I'm looking for, by the way. I'm looking for drop dead dates. I'm looking for, here's the pace that I'm on. By the way, that's another point that I brought up recently with the launch partners, the idea of what is a good pace. You know, how do you know if you've got a good pace where your business is concerned? How do you know if you're, you know, I think it's important. If you owned a franchise, if you paid a lot of money for a franchise and it was a good franchise, that means they have a franchise operating system. And it tells you everything about everything. And you would know as the owner of that franchise if you were functioning at 100% or at 70% or at 50%, because it gives you all the things you need to be looking for and the rhythm, if you will, of that business to know whether or not you're operating as efficiently and effectively as that franchise has been designed. It's kind of like a car. It'll go at a certain speed, but if you're underperforming and you're not really taking it up to the speed that it needs to go. So how does that transfer into Nikken? What is a reasonable speed for the business? And more importantly, let's say it was somebody brand spanking new who's got a list. What would be an appropriate speed for them, or pace for them to contact and invite, to get that first step going so that there can be flow through this partnering process that we talked about? And what would be the appropriate pace? And I gave you some instruction on that on the launch partners. I'll give it to you tonight. A modest, and I mean a modest pace, in particular for those of us who've been in the business a while, we're going to be more likely being on a modest pace, would be 1 to 3 contacts a day. 1 to 3 contacts a day would lead to one something, whatever it is that you were looking for. If that was a meeting, if you were inviting 1 to 3 people to meet with you, you're going to get a confirmation of 1 in 3. A better pace, one that's more on par with achieving some of the incentives that Nikken has to offer, would be 4 to 6 contacts a day, leading to 2 firm appointments. So let's say, for instance, I had a list of 100 names and I was contacting 4 to 6 people a day on that list. That means about a third of those people would be even open to having a conversation. So I could get an appointment to see them. That'd be 2 appointments a day. Now, if you were really on a launch, then 7 to 9 contacts a day would be what I would expect somebody who's in launch mode. Obviously, they have a list, because if you've got a contact list of 100 names, then 7 to 9 names, that means you'll get you through your contact list in that first round within a couple of weeks. That would lead to about 3 appointments a day. Now, something that Ben had mentioned in our call was that some of these calls are follow-up calls. They're not just initial calls. And I think that's really important to note, because it's not often the first call. In fact, in sales, it's not until the 4th, 5th, and on calls that something actually happens. And so we want to factor that into our business, because our business is a process. It's not an event. People don't join Nikken in one sitting and are full tilt as a result of it. It's literally a process. And just if every one of us remind ourselves as to what process we went through a process that allowed us to get more engaged. And so we want to include on your follow-up or your contact and invite, some of these are follow-up calls because the first one didn't lead to a result, which could be an appointment, or a result which could be a sale, or a result which could be whatever, the next event. So, but just in terms of pace, if you don't have a pace and it's not consistent, ask yourself, of every business you ever walk into in the course of your life, in the course of your day, how many of them would be in business if they had no flow, no people moving through the turnstiles of their business with regularity? They wouldn't be a business. There would be no predictability whatsoever to their business. So what generates business is flow. A certain percentage of people through the business turnstile, if you will, through the doors, results in the business flowing. Does everybody buy when they go into a clothing store? Everybody? No. But the traffic into that store leads to a percentage of people buying. Sometimes they come back more than once. Sometimes they come back to buy that other thing that they saw the first time that they didn't buy the first time, but they came back a second or a third time before they finally bought it. So the key to the process is flow. And if we're not monitoring that, if we're not on point with that, then you can see why you might be getting stuck. I think, Barb, you wanted to mention something?
Well, that chart that Ben posted, the slide that he posted the other day, shows the breakdown of follow-ups and how many follow-ups it takes. I took a screenshot of it if you don't have it, but it was pretty revealing.
Yeah.
Really revealing.
What was the one thing that struck you?
When Ben was talking about it not being, you're not going to get the sale necessarily on the first contact. 5 to 12 contacts, or the 5th through the 12th contact, had the highest percentage. 82% of the sales occurred after the 5th through the 12th contact.
Yeah. But if you're only contacting one person, you're not going to call them 5 to 8 times a day. So you've got to have more than one person you're contacting.
These are all follow-ups. These are all follow-ups.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, we have Michelle Kowalchuk on the line here, and I'm sure everyone would want to interview her if you had the chance on a one-on-one. We've got a few minutes right now, so let's just go ahead and do that, if we can, Michelle, because a little birdie told me that you are in the top 2 sales of the weight management pack for the incentive that just passed, that enables you to be one of the very first members of this group to advance to Team Kaizen, and as a result go to Japan. So we may have right here on this line our first Japan qualifier. So now I know you've been interviewed, and we did this on the launch for launch partners benefit, but if I may, this was not this didn't happen overnight. This concept of contacts per day, follow-up, and flow is something that is just, it's like the back of your hand to you. I know, because that's the way you manage your business. So why don't you give us sort of a little window into the last 3 months as to how this happened, and maybe some of the highlights for you.
Okay, absolutely. Well, I am very honored to announce that I was number 1. That's exciting. I saw it posted on Facebook, so I did place first. So thank you. Thank you to all who supported, because you know what? This is definitely a team effort. Absolutely. Because through the team, you learn. You gain more experience from the experience of others. But what I have found over the years that I've been with Nikken, and even in my career with the banking, it's all about relationship building. Absolutely 100%. And I absolutely understand when Ben talks about the 5 to 12 contacts to make that sale, because that's how you're building your relationship with that individual and learning about them and meeting their needs. And what happened with me was, with these people that I had built relationships with over these years, it didn't happen overnight, like you said, Mike. When I called upon them and I let them know what I was doing, what I was running for, I was completely upfront, open. I offered them a little bit of an incentive as my customers too, to gain the benefit, as well as maybe a little bit bonus too, because I'm going to win, you're going to win. That's my attitude.
Can you give us any specifics?
Well, what I did was, those that would purchase a 30-day pack, I offered them a $50 rebate, cash rebate. And those that did a 90-day pack, I offered them a $100 rebate. It was worth it to me. Now, this is Canadian dollars, okay? Very worth it to me, because the results spoke for themselves. I mean, it was just, when you asked me how I did it, and I said it was just building the relationships, but it was so humbling when my customers would say, well, sure, I'll buy a pack. I can use this, and I'll help you. That was just so cool. That was so cool. That, to me, instilled what I've been doing is the right way to do it.
Can you go back for a second? Because previous Aligning with Success calls, especially on the March 27 Aligning with Success call, that call was about contact and invite, and the emphasis on that was to go out and ask for help. Rather than saying, oh, I'm here to help, go out and ask for help as a starting point, and then follow that conversation, that line. So would you verify if that's in fact the strategy you applied?
Exactly. When they pick up the phone, I'd ask them, of course, how they're doing, and if they had a couple of minutes. I mean, that's standard, right? And then I said, I'm looking for some help, and this is what I'm doing. Do you think you'd be interested in helping me? Just that simple.
Fantastic. Okay. And so now give us some statistics. Like what was a reasonable day for you?
A reasonable day for
What was,
contacting?
So what was the kind of flow you were experiencing in terms of contacts?
Well, you know what? It all started with the product launch in April.
Okay.
So making the contacts when I committed to doing the launch, it was making the contacts to have people come out to, I had 2 events, one in Winnipeg and one in Dauphin. So out of those 2 events, there was, I don't know, 8 packs, I think, sold. And there was some consultants there. I sold 4 personally. I'm wrong, I sold 5. But anyways, no matter, contacts, you know what, Mike? I don't know. I just kept phoning until I ran out of time.
And Mike, if I could, we've been close, Michelle and I, because of doing the Thursday night events. So actually her energy is rubbed off on me. That's what I'm doing with Terry and this team. But you use that analogy of a wedding, and then when the wedding comes, well, in the last 48 hours, we had several conversations together. Madeline, I'm at 10, I'm at 12, I think I need this, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. But so having, when she mentioned earlier, that team support, which was really motivating for me. And she did a lot in those last 3 days.
Yeah, tell me about those last 3 days.
Yeah, she really did.
It was intense. I had a house full of family here from New York. We were trying to fit in the fair, all kinds of events that were going on over that time frame. But I still found the time to make those calls and to spend quality time with my family. And it was so intense. I was exhausted. I'm still feeling tired from the last 3 months, but it's been really, really awesome. You know what, Mike? To be perfectly honest, when I won the top product launch host, when I won first in that, I was very surprised. And then it was like kind of an aha and a realization in May when I realized, hey, I could win Team Kaizen. It was like, okay, let's get to work. Let's start talking to people and let's start moving these packs. And May was a little bit slow, but then June, I just thought, no, we're going to get it done. And like Madeline said, the last 3 days, I was 3 short and then 2 short. And then before I knew it, I was 4 over. So that was kind of cool.
Fantastic.
It was just phoning.
Which by the way, and this is not surprising at all. I asked that because when you sow the seeds, you reap the harvest. And generally speaking, in our business, because it is a month-to-month business, we experience the most of the mayhem and the craziness in the last 3 days of the month. So that's usually when you start to reap the harvest from the seeds that you'd sown earlier in the month. So people shooting for silver, whatever their incentive is that month, it's very expected. In fact, there's an audio you can listen to, one of my favorites actually. It's actually one of my favorites in YouTube. So if you go to my YouTube channel and look up Silver's a Blast. Silver's a Blast. It's an audio that I did years ago where I interviewed a group of people who had just recently completed going silver. And so I interviewed them much like with Michelle, but in a more streamlined way to take you through the beginning, the middle, and the end of that silver run so that you could see the consistency for everyone. There's a very simple and consistent way of getting that done, and the pattern that they went through and the emotions that they went through, by the way. So it's a great audio. Silver's a Blast, one you want to add to your favorites on YouTube and let people listen to, because it also helps somebody say, hey, that sounds like fun. I think I'd like to do that. So it might be something that motivates somebody to step up in your group to say, I'd like to be the next silver. So silver's a blast, great audio, but you'll find that, again, sow the seeds, you reap the harvest. That's down toward the end of the month. And Michelle, that was a great idea, putting some incentives together. People like incentives to buy now, and this is not unfamiliar territory. I mean, we see that everywhere. Anytime anybody's pitching you, whether it's an email, an online promotion, or you're passing by your favorite store, you're going to see something in the window, you're going to see something in your email that prompts you to look at us, look at me now, because there's this savings or there's that savings. So people are used to that. That's how we are motivated to act. So to create incentives around whatever you might be offering is a great idea.
Also, Mike, could I also add another thing that I did that I found a lot of success with in the launch in November and then again in April, was my customers, some of them were not interested in the whole pack. I don't want all of that. So I said, well, I know somebody, and I asked them, what part of the pack do you like? What part will you use? And they'd tell me, and I'd say, okay, so you don't want this? I know of somebody who wants that. How about if you split a pack? Would you be willing to do that? And it worked.
Now, logistically, how did that work?
How does that work is it's a matter of actually physically having the pack delivered and then split up.
Okay. So one person would pay, or would you use two credit cards?
One person would pay, and then they'd collect cash. And it worked amazingly. Customers were ecstatic because they were getting a product at a good deal, and they got the product that they wanted. So it worked really well.
Any questions for Michelle out there? I see two hands go up. Carol?
Approaching somebody about a weight management pack. I guess I'm in a situation where my sister's always been overweight, and I've always been more athletic, and I don't have issues with weight. So how do you, in a nice way, approach somebody about the weight management pack? I mean, I know it's just about, I use it. I mean, because I have small kids, and it's a great thing for me on the go. So I use all the products, but how do you approach somebody about that without offending?
More as a lifestyle pack.
It was very easy to do because you can look at it three ways, and some people would say, well, I don't need to lose weight, and I'd say that's okay. This is a great pack to keep healthy. Do you ever skip a meal? This is a great supplement. We all need to cleanse as well on a regular basis. You need an energy drink. Maybe you might need some digestive enzymes. We can all use a little boost every once in a while. It's good to keep a healthy regime. So it's great to maintain weight. It's great for weight loss if that's your incentive. There's different programs for whatever you want to do. Or even if it's for someone also who needs to gain weight, to add more protein to their diet. So I approached it on all levels.
That's really good. So you're looking at, it's a weight management, but the implication is that it's a lose weight. No, what you say is it's a weight management program. Some people use it to lose weight. Some people use it to manage their weight, and some people use it to actually gain weight. Depends on how you want to use it. But there are components in it that are important to everyone. For instance, one of the most important is detox. Many of us our livers, et cetera, our kidneys are just full of stuff because for the longest time we haven't detoxed. We just consume foods that are causing an increase in toxicity levels. So that would be one reason to have this. Digestive enzymes is something that we most don't get enough of because we don't eat the right foods to have digestive enzymes, and our body doesn't reproduce them like they used to when we were younger. So digestive enzymes as a supplement is almost mandatory. It's almost like if you're at all interested in health, you really ought to be using digestive enzymes, especially as you get older. And then there's the proteins and the medium chain triglycerides, which my son, by the way, just as an aside, my son Michael, who is now starting to get interested in fitness, he uses the weight management pack, the shake, and the 10-4 together when he juices up in the morning. And that's how he gets his day started. So he has a real ramped up start to his day just by starting his day that way. And he is like legitimately on, like, that's his daily regimen. So, and he tells me it's helped him. It's helped him not have the fatigue and the mental blur that he would normally have in the morning going to school.
That's the carbs, the detoxing from carbs. When it has the carb content, you really can get away from your carb addiction. And the other thing is not just a protein shake, but a totally vegan protein shake with 6 greens in it, 6 super greens. So that is another good thing to promote. Very few people get the amount of vegetables that they need in a day. Very powerful shake.
Yeah, great program. Carol Hackbart, you also had a question. We're not hearing you. No, not hearing you. Oh, well. I'm not sure what's going on with your internet. Okay, anyone else have a question for Michelle or myself? Okay, so let's just do a quick recap. The idea of this flow, because I think it's something that I'm not going to get tired about talking about, because I think it's something we really need to place an emphasis on. If you have been part of the Aligning with Success conversation, then we've gone through a number of things in terms of process and strategy. How to get people from knowing nothing to knowing enough to make a decision to enroll, and what that means and what it looks like. And we even have graphical representation of it. That little triangle with the circle means they've made a commitment to invest in their business, which is their time, money, and contacts. Those are the 3 things that they need to invest, the most important of which is their contacts, because 100 names that they know, each of those 100 know 100 that they don't know. That's 10,100 names. So that's a lot of people that we have access to if we use this tool. And if we go, use the methodology on the tool to help qualify those leads and formulate our approach. Our approach in terms of recruitment, I want to emphasize again, March 27th audio of Aligning with Success gives you the dialogue. It gives you the invitation on how to approach it in a unique way for each person, but it's a formulaic approach so that you are inviting them to help you with what it is that you're campaigning to do. So we've gone through process. We went through strategy. A little bit about strategy was a date with destiny. We need to have in our mind and on paper, what's our launch date, which creates our launch window. So we're in a pre-launch and then a launch. Our pre-launch window. So the metaphor, the analogy would be, if you were in the stock market business, I would tell you about a stock before the stock went public or before there was a major announcement indicating that stock was going to rise in value. So you want to let your friends and family know about it so that they can get in on the action when the price is still down before it goes public. So in our Nikken business, we want to find our team, that team of people within a certain time frame, because we're going to launch the business as of whatever date that's going to be in your area, in your region. And you really want to really grasp this idea, because it doesn't matter that Nikken's a 42-year business. It's completely irrelevant. Why? Because any one of us or any new person today could start today, and I don't care what city, pick any city in North America where we supposedly have been doing business for 20 plus years. Pick any city in North America. I guarantee a person could, day one, start their Nikken business today, and it would be unlikely they would encounter somebody in their launch that even knows about Nikken or has ever seen the Nikken products. That's a very, very high probability that they are in a territory or an area that is an unknown. Nikken is an unknown. And so anyone could legitimately launch the new Nikken anywhere in any city and have no pushback, no interference with that. So I truly know this. I know this to be true. Many of you are experiencing it, because there's a lot of people out there who have health issues, still don't know Nikken exists. Yet it's been there. So, yeah.
I have a question on so looking at who's here tonight, and I'll speak for myself, many of us are relaunching with our drop dead dates for our 3 to 4 new leaders to be part of this Team Kaizen for the beginning of next year. So as we're forming those drop dead dates and pulling these 2 to 4 people that are ready now to launch together so that we can leverage that effort and have that momentum, then we're really duplicating everything you're talking about tonight with their 4 to 6 contacts a day, which means we're going to be A's plus facilitating. So then at that point, it's not that we're never not still looking for new people, because there's the possibility those 1 to 4 may not stay through the end of the year. But then we go down a little on our own because we are the A's putting this team together to get this Paragon or whatever done. Is that correct? We're looking for that team of 3 or 4.
Yeah. And so what you're looking for is by when. You're going to have your 4 by when. They're going to have their 4 by when. And they're going to have their 4 by when. So it's the by when question, right? Or their 3 by when. Their 3 by when. Their 3 by when. And remember this too, that in the launch strategy, when we talk about 3, that means 3 who are duplicating.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to have 3 who are duplicating, how many do we actually have to have enroll? 9. 9 to ensure we have 3. So it's a fail-safe to ensure the results. Because if you're betting on those 3 that have come up, and okay, I've got my 3. If you can't do that. If you want to bulletproof your business and ensure the viability of your business, then the rules help. And what we've learned is that, and by the way, all of you can take stock of this. Just look at anytime somebody sits down with me and says, Mike, I've got this many people sponsored. And then I say to them, whatever the number is, it doesn't matter what the number is. I divide it by 3. I said, this is how many active legs you have. They go like, how do you know that? That's right. How do you know that? Because that's just the nature of the business. It's the rule of thirds. So if I know I want 3 active businesses, 3 active sales teams, 3 active organizations, 3 active leaders, I've got to have enough people in the farm team, if you will, for those 3 leaders to emerge. So that's another one of those golden rules. So the by when means I've got the 9 by when, resulting in the 3 who will be the 3 who have their 9 by the next when. By the next drop dead date. So when you focus that way and you start working toward that, then the next piece of this puzzle is, well, if that's going to happen by that drop dead date, then there has to be a certain rhythm to the contacts and invites and follow-ups. It just has to be. Otherwise, how's it going to happen? So just in the case of Michelle, there was those phone calls, constant, that building of the relationship, and then as we move toward the end of the month, pow, everything sort of comes together. So that's the whole concept in a nutshell. That's like your network marketing business 101, 401, whatever you want to call it, PhD, I think it's more likely. And you'll find that no matter what book you read in network marketing, they'll all point to the same thing. But the one thing that I found, one of the people who I found actually does a real good job of conceptualizing and helping you understand this launch thing is Eric Worre. He's got a couple of videos online where he talks about the launch concept. And I swear he's read my book, because he even uses the same analogy that I use, which is the airplane taking off. You know, if an airplane's taking off the runway, you know, you only have so much runway. So you better get that plane off the ground before you run out of runway. So that's pedal to the metal. You know, there's no playing with this. Get that thing off the ground. And so that's a launch strategy. It's pedal to the metal.
Even with the customers, though, sometimes they wait until the last 2 days of the month to decide if they're going to buy something.
True.
And you're trying to finalize your 500 points. You know the customer's interested, and you just have to follow up. And you going for it, or are you not?
Well, and by the way, again, this comes back to, I'm looking for your help. Look, this is what's going on for me this month. You've indicated that this is of interest to you. Can you meet me halfway? And so I think one of the things I love most about what we're doing is how candid and open we are in our conversations with people. You know, the culture of Nikken is one that is very it's honest. It's pure, it's honest. We have the best intentions for everyone. We know we are uncompromising and uncompromised where our products are concerned. We know that if we insist a little bit on someone getting these products, we know it is in their best interest. We know that the products won't fail them. So you should be confident that way. Anyway, guys, we've used up more than enough of our time for this evening. I want to thank you for your input, your contribution to this. Again, if you're not, if you've got somebody new in Nikken, you might want to go to the archive at the Royal Alliance YouTube channel. How you find that, by the way, is go to theroyalalliance.com, click on YouTube channel, and it'll drive you straight to the YouTube channel. We have playlists. The Aligning with Success is one of the playlists that you can review any number of the Aligning with Success presentations, meetings. There's usually a little blurb about the description, just a little blurb. But if you've got some favorites, earmark them as favorites on your YouTube channel so that you can build a library of tools in your YouTube channel, your favorites that you think are important for your new people. So make a point of doing that. Build a library of useful tools for yourself by just making them a favorite. It doesn't matter who published it. Click it on it as a favorite of yours, and you'll have a favorites page. All right, guys. Again, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on Aligning with Success. Have a great week.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.